Good afternoon. I couldn't just hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, Phil. Let's see. Are you able to hear me, Phil?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Can you advance to the next slide, please? Okay, so my presentation, I'm gonna go over roads updates. And so I'm gonna start off, I'm gonna go through the Lower San Ynez Recreation Area, which consists of the San Ynez River Road, Romero Camusa, Buckhorn Road, Happy Hollow OHV, and then I'm gonna move to East-West Camino Cielo. And then from there, I'm gonna go up to Upper San Ynez Recreation Area, Romero Camusa, and Agua Caliente. And then I have some maps, within the presentation. And so if the road is highlighted in green, it was been completed. And if it's in yellow, maintenance is planned. Next slide, please. So again, I'm just going to go over, get a little bit more specific. So I'm going over the Lower San Ynez Recreation Area, 5 and 18.2, San Ynez River Road, 5 and 15.3, Romero Camusa, 5 and 15.2, Romero Camusa, 911.4 Trail, Buckhorn Road, 911B, and Happy Hollow OHV. Next slide, please. So 5 and 18.2 San Ynez River Road. The road status is open. Maintenance completed, meaning that we just had some brushing done. And also we had a slide and slough removal. Next slide, please. And so you can see where it's green, the River Road. So the Buckhorn Camusa OHV. So the status of the road, let me go ahead. So I'm talking about 5 and 15.3, Romero Camusa, 5 and 0.2, Romero Camusa, 911.4, Buckhorn Road, 911B, and Happy Hollow OHV. And so I don't know if you can see, but I try to label the roads that I'm discussing. And so as I go through, the road status is restricted to non-motorized use, and maintenance is completed. So we had, we did some grading and overside drain installation on 5 and 12, 15.2, Romero Camusa, 9 and 11.4 junction, grading and overside drain installation of 911.4 Happy Hollow OHV junction. So the maintenance that's planned is the pavement of 5 and 15.3 Romero Camusa from Lower Oso to Upper Oso Trailhead, and then brushing, grading, drainage. So the maintenance that's planned on the Buckhorn Camusa OHV. So let me back up a little bit. So the status, so it's restricted to non-motorized use with pending of award of paving contract for 5 and 15.3 Romero Camusa. But then the maintenance plan on the Buckhorn Camusa OHV route is funded by the California State Parks OHV Ground Operations Grant, and it's contingent upon being awarded the funds and operator availability. So right now, that part won't be contracted out. So we will have our own equipment operators doing the work, and so we don't have a road crew per se. So our firefighters, our equipment operators, which are our firefighters, will be doing the road work when they can, and so fire season usually ends, but right now, fire season is like a yearly thing right now. So once we get a break and get the funding, we'll go ahead and move on with those maintenance repairs. Next slide, please. And so here I'm just showing some photos of some of the damage along the Buckhorn. So you can see that we have some sloughing, some major damage there, all kind of stuff. And these, this damage occurred from the 2023 atmospheric river along with the storms from 2024. Next slide, please. So now I'm kind of going counterclockwise within our recreation area. So I'll start at Lower Santa Ynez Recreation Area. I'm going up to 154, and I'm going over the East and West Camino Cielo, and then I'll drop down into the other ones. Next slide, please. So here we have East and West Camino Cielo, 5 and 12, East Camino Cielo, 5 and 8, 5 and 19, West Camino Cielo, and road status. Open, so maintenance completed. And this is, when I'm talking about maintenance completed, I'm talking about the portion, so I'm talking about East Camino Cielo. So retaining wall was repaired, the brushing, pothole repair, pavement. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I did say it right. So maintenance is planned, retaining walls and drainage. So let me, to kind of go through this, I know that, so this is West Camino, this is East Camino Cielo, and then that's over there by, over there down by the saddle. So going back to my notes, so maintenance completed on 5 and 19 West Camino Cielo. So we did have brushing, pothole repair, and repavement chip seal. And then maintenance plan on 5 and 12 East Camino Cielo around the Painted Cave Road. Completion is for October 2025. That's retaining wall, drainage, ditch reconditioning, rock embankment, and reinforced soil slope. That is actually going to start July 28th. And it's going to go through August. Let me make sure. It's going to start July 28th through August 22nd. And then we have maintenance completed on 5 and 12 East Camino Cielo, brushing from Gibraltar Road intersection to 5 and 15.1 Romero Camusa, and that's beyond to Pendola Station. The retaining wall construction prior to Divide Peak OHV has been completed. And I know I get a lot of questions about that portion of the road, especially when I first started. I would get at least a call once a week, and this is what I shared with folks that did call me on the phone. So I arrived at Santa Barbara July of 2021, and so the fiscal year FY22 was when I was, making an assessment of what needed to be done on the district, and most of the road stuff. So FY22, which was making the assessment. So when I say fiscal year, I'm pretty sure you guys already know, but just to refresh your memory, federal government fiscal year is from October 1 until September 30th of the next year. So FY22, I was making the assessment. Then FY23 was in the process of coming up with different plans. And then FY24, this was all in my mind, what I was hoping to have. FY24 would be implementation, and FY25, that's it, 24 implementation? Yeah, and now we're in FY25. So it did happen kind of the way I wanted it, how I envisioned it, but in between my vision of getting the work done is that we had the atmospheric river in 2023, and then we had another storm in 2024, which kind of set us back a little bit and caused more damage. And so then you say, well, why was the roads closed in the first place? And then these gentlemen up on the panel, they know more history about the area than me, since I've been here since 2021. But we had the Ray Fire, what was that? The Ray Fire in 2016, the White Fire in 2013, and then we had the Thomas Fire recently. So all those, if you guys agree with me, build on the damage to the roads and having us to, close the roads administratively. So With that said, can we move on to the next slide? So now I'm going to where a lot of people want to know about the Upper San Ynez Recreation Area. So that's 5 and 15.1 Romero Camusa, 5 and 16 Agua Caliente Road. And then I want to back up. I left something out when on the last. So 5 and 12.2 East Camino Cielo, which is what I was just talking about, where the crib wall was repaired. We reopened it up to the public, and that they gave you 1.5 miles closer to the Upper San Ynez Recreation. So you pretty much get to Divide Peak, basically. All right. So next slide, please. Okay. So we're at Romero Camusa, Agua Caliente, 5 and 15, Romero Camusa, 5, 16. I can keep reading. I know you're tired of hearing my voice repeating the stuff on the slide, but you guys can see it. Road status restricted to non-motorized use, maintenance completed with brushing. Maintenance plan, conversion of culvert to low water crossing, culvert maintenance, low water crossing maintenance, and grading of the road. So provide, more recreation access. It requires a recreation management plan for campgrounds and day use areas. The challenges include, staffing. So from our district, because we don't have concessionaires out that way, from our district, it's a 2-hour commute from the district office. So the district office is on Paradise Road in Lower San Ynez Recreation Area. And I'm not making an excuse. I'm just telling you what the reality of things are. So it's a 2-hour commute to those locations, and then also we can't have any. We don't have the ability to have our toilets pumped. Back there, once we do get things open, that's out of Marburg's service area, and I think they've been down that way in the past, and their trucks got stuck, and so it's out of our service area, and so they're not going to service those toilets, those pit toilets. So 5 and 15.1 Romero Camusa could be accessible to high clearance vehicles from Divide Peak OHV to Pendola Station, but the next gate, and I think this is where some of the other questions, isn't until mid San Ynez campground crossing before campground crossing before the mid San Ynez needs to be cleared. Additional work before Pendola. We need grading, culvert repair, possible retaining structures. Need to make the road accessible to 2-wheel drive vehicles and all-wheel drive vehicles. So we have some maintenance plan and hopefully completion fall 2025, spring 2026 for 5 and 15.1. It's conversion of culverts to low water crossing, culvert maintenance, and low water crossing maintenance. So we're going to convert some low water crossings, some culverts to low water crossings. Then we have some maintenance we need to do on culverts, and then we also have to do some maintenance on low water crossings. So you guys that's been out there, you can see what I'm talking. I think you can recall what I'm talking about. And then we have grading that needs to be done. And then for 5 and 16 maintenance plan, low water crossing maintenance. And that's the last crossing before you get the big Caliente day use area. And that completion is estimated completion in summer 2026. Next slide, please. And so here's some of the photos of the damage, and this all occurred from the 2023 atmospheric rivers. A couple of photos. Photos failed culverts or conversion of low water crossing east of P-Bar Flat. That's the left one, and then road washout west of P-Bar Flat to the right. And next slide, and that's the end of my presentation and update, and I'm open for questions, and I'll try to answer them the best I can.
I'm sorry, sir. We'll get you a mic so we can get it on the record.
All right, thank you. So I was just noticing on the first slide, you have the Buckhorn Road being proposed to be completed in the near future.
Mhm.
Around what dates do you think you'll be starting that, continuing up from Oso?
Let me see, I did have that I did remember it, but for some reason it escapes me right now. But, it's on, it's on the docket to get done.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be paved, the road's gonna be paved all the way up to Upper Oso.
The old campground.
Yeah, so the campground is not gonna be open, but we're gonna provide vehicle access up to the trailhead.
The park there, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, and then it looked like you had proposed, I forget the name of the number, but the OHV area that goes towards Mono Camp.
uh,
You know, that's a way that would connect towards P-Bar. And the last slide you showed where the damage was between P-Bar and Mono. That part will not be repaired anytime soon.
yeah, I don't see it happening in the near future. I mean, it's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's expensive road to repair.
Yeah, it's a big,
But I mean, but it is, and we are planning to get that done. I just can't give you a date or a timeline on when it's gonna be, because everything's kind of caught up in engineering, design, contracting, NEPA, ologists doing assessing for critical habitat, then we have to also our archaeologists have, so it's a lot of different steps. We just can't go out there and build
yeah,
the
of
road.
course. That makes a lot of sense. There's the Arroyo Toad and there's a lot of things to overcome to even regrade that. Another thing I was thinking about was, the fire danger. And obviously, we need fire breaks. We have the road, the Romero Junquial Road that goes past Jameson Lake. And I know you guys went to Murrieta Divide. I think you go into the Ojai Ranger District at that point. But the Matilahaw Murrieta Road has not been finished. And that's been a big question for us in Ojai.
Right.
If Matilahaw catches on fire, that's a good backdoor out of that canyon. It's critical recreation for us using Divide Peak and Ocean View Trail. So, and I've been up that road a number of times since it's been closed, and it is fixable. I just was wondering which ranger district to continue to press on that.
Well, that would be, I mean, you can bring your questions to me, you can bring your concerns to the district ranger for Ojai, which is Marshall Alford. And it's it'll be more of a forest thing, and so, I would have to get with our engineer, our forest engineer about those things, but it's a lot of different things that's coming up. And, I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, I know that road has been something that's been talked about for years, and it's cut off between Santa Barbara and the Ojai Ranger District.
Yeah.
I can take that and try to answer your question at a later date.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to put it on the radar. And it's a big access point, from that direction. And then there's Potrero Seco Road that goes over. That used to be a big fire break that's been abandoned. So I just think of the fire danger,
Right.
especially. And then we're not able to maintain trails anymore because we can't get anywhere close to them. So everything's kind of just starting to dilapidate and
Right.
get overgrown. So I see where you're going with this. It's a great start. And I've been out to the hot springs recently, and it's in pretty good condition right now. So it's a good start, but I also see the staffing issues, the toilets. I mean, maybe you could get a different pump company.
Yeah, and and from a recreation standpoint, we may have to reimagine that area and how it's used.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a couple ideas out there. I can't say I'm not at liberty, but I'm saying it's just a bunch of stuff that we're thinking about. And so, hopefully that we can come up with a plan once we get more access and road access out there, that we can reimagine those campgrounds that leapfrog you into the backcountry in a different way.
Right. Well, I just want to say I am excited about the Buckhorn grading. Every time I ride my bike across that, it's getting worse and worse. It is still passable, which is nice. So I look forward to that being completed. So yeah, thank you on that.
Just a couple questions. Is there any plan for the Hildreth Fire Road?
You know what? we talked about, that came up today, and I understand that there's a lot of work that needs to be done out there on that fire road. And I believe it's been closed for quite some time. And so the only thing I can say that it's been talked about, we're looking at it. I just can't give you an answer. I mean, I would have to, talk with, our engineers and then our storm damage, program manager.
Because that's the road that we would take to access our property. And we've walked at the 95% of the road's actually pretty decent.
Uh-huh.
There's a couple parts coming out of P-Bar where there's a little bit of slides, but the road's fairly intact. It travels the top of the ridge line. There's actually not that many slides. It's not bad.
Okay.
So I'd ask if you could take a look at that because we do have property back there and we're not able to access it.
Okay, I sure will. Yeah.
And then also, what's the timeline for the culvert repair
Which one you
going
talking about?
to P-Bar?
On the P-Bar, I think, what did I say? Because, I have,
'Cause we've been in there, we see it dug out,
uh-huh.
see the culvert sitting there. Doesn't seem like it's a crazy project. And we've been told for years now that it's being planned, but there's never a concrete timeline for it to actually be started or finished.
Sir, can you just state your name for the record and anyone-
Sunny Brooker.
Thank you, sir. And just anyone else wanting to speak, if you could just, before you start speaking, just state your name. Thank you.
By summer 2026. So, I mean, within a year, so that's what it's planned.
Okay. Are some of the funds from the Edison settlements for the Ray Fire and the Thomas Fire being used for these road repairs?
I can't give you an educated answer on that right now, and I'm not just gonna make something up, but,
Okay.
but we do have some settlement funds that's gonna help us repair the roads.
Thank you.
So this is on. Hi, Daryl. Haven't met you yet, but we've been trying to. I'm Lori Rafferty, and I'm a 23+ year volunteer with the Los Padres Forest Association, plus growing up in the Los Padres. So I actually have a lot of history, and I have a lot that I would like to talk about, but out of respect of what was presented tonight, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions about that. The Pendola situation is frankly a joke. It's been closed for vehicular access since 2017. That's 8 years. And, then there's a toad lock on the gate. And the Montecito Water District wants to go in and they're complaining about the brushiness. How do I know that? Is because I go and help do some trail work out there. We all know this forest is a highly erodible, unstable forest with nasty geology, but it's nothing any of us haven't seen over the years. You want to see history of flooding, look in Google, flood of 1969. So it is what it is. Things get fixed. And as time has gone by, I've just seen less effort put to fixing some of our roads. And there's generations of families who love to go back to Pendola and camp, even Thanksgiving and have dinner there. And you have the hunters and you have the backpackers. And the Agua Caliente Canyon is beautiful for hiking and bird watching. And it's all fixable. It just takes money and effort. And I don't know why the Buckhorn Road, that is Santa Barbara's gate to the backcountry trailheads for the LPFA to go back there and stage, like at the Bluff Camp, and do trail maintenance down our wilderness trails, like the Grapevine and then the Indian. And sure, that took a beating in 2023, but it was already taking a beating before that. That road was put in by the CCCs. I'm sure you know that. Maybe other people don't know. In the early 1930s, it has stood the test of time. It is a great road. And it is also written in the California Wilderness Act that it's a Forest Service administrative road. It's between the San Rafael and the Dick Smith. I think that road ought to have high priority. I've completed a list of over 30 user groups who use that road, including botany studies from UCSB, educational youth trips. They're bike packing, or the botanists or the biologists go in and have a study. There's archaeology preservation groups. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's a major road corridor also for fire safety and firefighting. And it's a shame that it has not been maintained. And I've always seen it a battle. Oh, the Santa Fe District will do some, Santa Barbara will do some. Oh, we'll get the hot shots out there and they'll brush. But somehow always money came up. And I don't know what's changed, since the last 5 years, 7 years of that. And it's a shame. It's going to worse. It's worse and worse and worse. It took us a team of 5 people in December working 2 days. We're all over 60 years old, clearing brush, and chainsaws to get back there to the bluff cabin to maintain it so we could have some trail crews get back there and use it. We didn't even make it. So another group went back and did it and got in. And then we went back again. And, now, I don't know, the brush is so bad. Hey, we all know chaparral grows like on steroids, right? It's damaged our vehicles. So you're losing sight lines. You're just losing that road. And that can't happen. That is a Forest Service administrative road written in the California Wilderness Act. And then Pendola, I don't know why you guys don't consider having a caretaker there. There was some, you probably heard the history of that, but there's been great caretakers down there at Davy Brown. Now, sometimes people get a little too comfortable in their caretaking jobs, but you just rotate people out. They ought to be free labor living back there. Then you have a presence, and then they'll maintain the campgrounds, weed whack, whatever. And that road, lately I heard a ranger, I don't know if they're still in your district anymore, didn't want to lift a shovel to clear a little drainage they could get around. And they're like asking us to go in, and we're like, oh gosh, really? Get a shovel out of your truck. So I don't know what's going on. It's really depressing. It's really bummed. And we are losing our recreational access. And that's my final thing. And I would love to sit down with you personally. Now you folks have a little bit more history from volunteers. Thank you.
Before the next question is asked, I just wanted to address what you said. For one, I want to say that the Santa Barbara Ranger District, along with the forest, we really appreciate all the help we receive from LPFA, Montecito Trails Foundation, Sage Hill Trail Alliance, all the different partners that help us, because to be honest, we just don't have the capacity. I mean, my recreation staff is almost zero. And so the work that gets done, the trail maintenance, the level 1, level 2 work that gets done out on the trails is all being done by volunteer groups like yourself. And so, we're working on the buckhorn and trying to figure out different ways with your assistance, with the volunteers' assistance, to get things done, to help us to provide access to the public to the backcountry, to the outdoors, so forth. Pendola. LPFA has been helping out with that. I mean, you come down there, we had a new roof put on. It helped charge our solar panels. The person that was down there, our own Forest Service caretaker person, is no longer there. That person moved on to a new horizon. And so now we have to figure out how we're going to have a presence out there at Pendola, and that's something we can all talk about as we move forward. So I really appreciate your comments, and I don't take them lightly.
Hi, Lauren Jacobson from Sage Trail Alliance. We have been working with Rachel Clancy, your recreation officer, and David Iniguez on reopening the Matias Trail complex. They've been wonderful, super patient with us, despite being super understaffed, just working with us on some creative solutions where Sage can go in and do the trails. But we can't reopen the trails until the road archaeologic site has been resolved. I know you can't talk about the location, but I'm wondering if there's a plan to reopen Arroyo Burro Road, or at least to close off the area of concern so that the rest of the trails can be accessed. Thank you.
Yeah, all those things are in the queue. And so when I brought up earlier that we have to get NEPA done, we have to do some cultural surveys, so forth. And so it's all it kind of, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it all depends. It's all based on the capacity we have. And so our Heritage program has a lot of stuff that they need to address and assess, and it has to get in the queue, and then they have to get out there and do it. And so That's all I can say, it's just based on our capacity or lack of. And so we're working through that, day by day and trying to prioritize projects, so we can get work done.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Is there a caretaker at Jameson Lake still?
Well, Montecito, what is it? I would assume so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just an example of Jameson Lake is very close to Pendola, and they've had a successful caretaker there for years. So it seems like there should be an ability to have the same type of situation at Pendola again. So that's something I think that's worth looking into.
Yeah, I agree.
And then just going back to funding, between the Ray Fire and the Thomas Fire, there's over $100 million awarded by Edison to the Forest Service, the U.S. government, and a large portion of that was for fire recovery, fire damage, road repair. And it doesn't seem we have less road access, less trail access, less and less, and there's funds been allocated, but just doesn't seem like any of the work is. There's plans for the work, but it just doesn't seem like that work's actually being done.
I think it's not happening in the time frame you would like it to happen, but it's still in process. And so those funds are going to be distributed. I just can't tell you with an educated answer when and where and time frames right now. But I mean, we can revisit that conversation.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm John Berberet, live here in Santa Barbara, grew up in Carpentry, and you're going to restore the Romero Canyon Road, aren't you? Out of Montecito up to Romero Saddle. We used to drive up when I was a kid. Yeah, that's a little bit of humor. I kind of like it the way it is. But yeah, I have a bit of history, but I arrived a little late. Forgive me. I was doing some caregiving for my own kid before my wife got home. I just want to ask some specific questions, and I know you guys are working hard, limited resources, but the Camoesa Road, where it forks away from the Buckhorn Road down to the middle Camoesa campground, that's a bear to get through that below there over to the Indian Creek Trailhead. It's a thicket. I've been through there a couple times in the last 2 years of my mountain bike. Progress that might be made, is that on the charts for getting some of that work done?
It is on the charts.
Okay. Can I give you a compliment? The sign to the toilets there now? That's something fairly new. I like that. The 2 barrels that used to hold water, the remnants are still there. There's a valve about, 30, 40 feet away. What's happening? Could there be Boy Scouts, and my son's one of them, he's 13, help in some of the restoration around some of those campgrounds with like an Eagle Scout project?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's the status of the water at that middle Camoesa campground? Like I said, there's a access there to a valve. There's water in there. I don't think it's potable. What's your thinking?
Well, I mean, that's more of an engineering question, and I can't give you
Okay.
an answer.
But there's something there, and it was nice years back to drink out of one of those barrels. Actually, that was good. But more thoughts, just a little more details, pushing through along the Camoesa Road, which is now a sketchy single track in some spots. Maybe almost too many gates through there. They're tough to get around, that's for sure, on foot, and especially with a mountain bike. But can there be a better connection like there used to be over to Indian Creek Trailhead and over then to Mono Debris Dam, pushing through to the Pendola Guard Station?
I'm sure that we can come up with a plan to, address some of your concerns. I think that if I can give you my information, you can share with me your concerns and questions. And then
Sure.
I'll sit down with my rec staff and engineering staff and see what we can come in along with talk with our partners, the LPFA and Sage Trail Alliance, and figure out some different avenues. Because we need assistance because we just don't have the capacity. And so whatever we can do to open up the backcountry, open up trails to the public within my scope, then I'm all for it. I just, right now, we got to come up with different plans, different options, and then see where we can go from there. I can't make any promises, but I'm more than willing to figure out a way to move forward.
There's the will, but kind of lacking in horsepower. or manpower, maybe.
Yes.
Hey, a question that might have been addressed, you might have addressed it. I believe, let me get my language right. As you go up toward the top of Little Pine, I think that the trail you drop off maybe a mile from the top, that's the Buckhorn. Yeah, okay. And then it drops down to the upper Buckhorn and lower. What's the status of that trail being restored? Or maybe it is, but I don't think so.
Well, no, we're working with LPFA, we working, I believe we working with. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So that's what I brought up before. We have to have assessments from our biological assessments, and we have to have heritage assessments, cultural surveys, for us to be able to do a level 2 survey. I mean, I'm sorry, level 2 maintenance, trail maintenance. So level 1 is just brushing, right? Level 2 is when you actually put a shovel in the ground. And anytime we put a shovel in the ground, we have to get it assessed. And so it may have been assessed before, but our heritage needs to go back out there and reassess it because things change through time. So, and so those are some of the things that I won't call them roadblocks, but those are some of the things that we need to get over so we can be able to provide access for people to do work.
Let me throw out one more idea to you, and part of it's based on what you're talking about. I think traditionally, a lot of the trails or access roads have traveled across creeks, creek beds, bottoms of canyons, because it sort of made sense, but it doesn't make sense in terms of conserving different kinds of animal life, toads, frogs, that kind of thing. Is there another approach to developing trails for people, single track, I suppose, especially, that stays out of creeks, river bottoms, out of wetlands, and still gets us across the forest?
I mean, yeah, you're talking about trail realignment. And so
Yes,
we go
kind of
back-
even philosophy realignment.
Yeah, so we still have to go back into the process of doing the biological surveys, the heritage surveys, and coming up with the funding, to be able to do that. And so, I mean,
And you guys are under the USDA, right?
yeah, we are under the USDA.
Yeah, then you guys are hurting. I get it. Okay. Thank you for your thoughts and your time.
There's,
Hi there.
how you doing?
Doing well, thanks, Daryl. My name is Ben Vanderkar. I'm coming up from Carpinteria, and a lot of love for the Los Padres. I understand you have a lot of ground you got to cover, a lot of bases to cover, a lot of different gates and roads and trails. So I appreciate what you do. I understand we're in catch-up mode. A couple of above average rainfall years back to back, making things more difficult. So I'm an avid hiker, backpacker. I enjoy trail running. One of my favorite things to do is bike packing. And so me and several of my friends who are here and others, we enjoy trying to maintain a route to be able to circumnavigate or go through as much of the Los Padres as possible. Sometimes we call it Tour de Los Padres. And it's been getting harder and harder and more dangerous. And I tell you, it's almost funny. Some of the people who go back there, like to the Upper San Ynez recreation area and see it for the first time, they say, man, this is like this post-apocalyptic, like what happened here? All these ruts in the road. I was out there several months ago and my bike and I just got eaten alive by one of the ruts in the road. I'm so grateful I didn't break my neck or something along those lines, something worse. And found out afterwards I wasn't the only one who ended up in that same rut, one of many just cavernous ruts along that stretch. And so, it is a shame, and I'm grateful to see your openness to our input and that plans are underway. I was so appreciative recently to go up Gibraltar and along East Camino Cielo and see some of the brushing work that had been done and that the gate there at Romero Saddle had been opened. And so I'm encouraged, and I understand the discussion here seems focused mostly on some of the roads that are closed. I'm curious if it's appropriate to ask about some of the trail closures. Romero was mentioned as a Carpinterian. Franklin Trail was such a, oh man, a big effort by the community and LPFA, MTF, many of the different folks involved to bring that back, and with the slogan, one of the slogans for raising money, bringing back our backcountry foot by foot, trying to raise money. And that means a lot to me, that kind of idea of being able to go up and over the mountain and access just everything that's back there that many of you in this room I know can appreciate and have respect for. So any updates on the Franklin Trail closure, Santa Ynez Trail, or Romero Trail closures? Those are all really critical accesses to be able to get from the front country to the back country.
Well, I can give you some updates, but I just don't want to misspeak right now. And give you wrong information, because we do have things in play along with LPFA and with Mountain Cedar Trails Foundation and others. Only thing I can tell you, I'm just going to give you my answer when I can't give you a straight, honest, correct answer. Let me get your information. I'll get back to you.
Terrific. I appreciate that. And just a quick response to that. I think we're very fortunate here in this area for LPFA, SAGE, MTF, the list goes on, Santa Barbara Land Trust, and many more who are all rooting for the work that is underfunded on your end. And so I encourage you to lean on the community as much as possible. And, we're ready. We're out there doing the work ourselves, sometimes illegally, because if we don't do it, then, people are using these trails and they're at risk of falling off the mountain. And we don't want to see that. So it's kind of a shame to be in this position. So just kind of my comments are recognizing that you're in a pinch and hoping to fuel the fire that we need to keep going and maintain access to the public. Thank you so much.
I think it might benefit people if you just gave a little bit more description of the NEPA levels and how long, when you have NEPA, for instance, on the Buckhorn offshoot down there to Indian Creek area, that you need to redo it. And if you're short on Forest Service biologists, isn't it common to come and subcontract out to other biologists, and couldn't commission efficient all of user groups contribute money to contracting out to get biologists on the job, and just not throwing our hands up and saying we don't have the staff? I mean, how can we move things along to help you? Can we give you money for that, or can we hire them? And that's same for bulldozer work. I mean, we have, the retired, some of the Mac Brown, one of the biggest companies in Carpinteria, who does amazing work on the bulldozers. And they said, oh yeah, Dad probably go do some bulldozer work for free. I mean, seriously, that's how desperate people are to get and access the forests, keep things going. So explain the NEPA thing. How long is it cycled, and you have to get a new one? And what can we do to help with that?
Okay, so NEPA or Endangered Species Act stuff. So you have to do an assessment before we do any work in an area, right? Some of the NEPA may be old or need to be brushed off, but anyway, so you have to do a biological. All right, let me back up. If it's in critical habitat for a sensitive species or a threatened species, we need to do a biological assessment. A biological assessment is reviewed by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and they give us back a biological opinion if we have a not likely to adversely affect or something to adversely affect, and then they give us an opinion back on how we move forward, right? And so we have to have biologists and technicians to go out there to do those surveys. But if we don't have the biologists and surveys, then organizations like LPFA can hire consultants to do the work that we don't have the capacity to do right then and there. But at the same time, once those biologists do the work, do the evaluations, we still have to have our own biologists review their document. And so that's where we kind of have a shortfall sometimes based on the capacity, what we need to do. I know it's not, I see a gentleman right there, he's shaking his head. I work for the federal government. It is a bureaucracy. And we have different process that we need to go through before we move forward. And so that's some of the things that has to be done. And then this collection agreements that has to come in place to pay for our time when we have to do it. So it's a lot of different things with that. And the same thing kind of goes, the same thing is with our heritage surveys. And they can be a little bit more stringent than our sorry, I'm at a loss for words. Our Endangered Species Act process. And that has to go through the SHPO process. And each process takes a certain amount of time. So, you know, once an evaluation comes back to us and it gets to Fish and Wildlife, they have a certain amount of days to review it. So you have time frames. So all that stuff kind of pushes things back. But from the NEPA standpoint, a mechanism that we do have that can help us move stuff along, instead of having a blown out environmental assessment, we can do a category exclusion, and there's different criteria that we can use to move forward. I know that's clear as mud, but I tried to answer your question as best I could.
Okay, I'm gonna pass it around the commissioners. Would you have questions? Start down that end.
I'm Jeff Landers, and I represent the Santa Maria Valley Sportsman Association. And I know a question's going to come up. Did we talk about Colson Canyon? Do you guys have anything on Colson Canyon that you guys plan on doing to reopen it since it's been closed for so long?
I don't want to speak on Colson Canyon. I'm taking the easy way out. That's not my district.
That's not your district?
Yeah, no, that's Santa Lucia. And Ben Gray is the district ranger there. But I will say about Colson Canyon, that road is very unstable.
Yeah.
And so it'll take a lot of engineering and a lot of money to open that road back up. But yeah, I just don't want to make a comment on that. That's something that I know it's a serious issue. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else along here?
Sure. This is Whitney Wood. I represent the recreational fishermen. As you're doing your assessment and planning, have you asked for, or are you planning to ask for public input? Because if you see tonight, there's a lot of the user groups, a lot of the volunteer organizations who have a lot of historical knowledge. And I think if you can set up for a time period to have public input, I think it would allay some of the fears that you guys are what you're planning may be missing part of the things that they feel are very important. So is that something that may be in the works or could be set up?
No, we always do that. Anytime we have a project, it always go out for scoping and for public comment. And so we set up the project, how we want to go about whatever project is. We put it out for public comment, and then the public brings back the comments, and then we address those comments and as we move forward through the NEPA and process. So we do have a mechanism for that.
Daryl, given the new administration, I thought NEPA was being streamlined.
It is.
And so how will that affect the timeline for these projects?
Right now, we're in the process of learning our new NEPA process. And so I still don't know how we're going to move forward with that because we're still getting that from the department now.
Okay. A few meetings ago, we actually recommended funding for a project to improve the road that goes out to Naira, Davy Brown,
Mhm.
because the road that was there was eroding and causing a lot of sedimentation in the creeks there, which of course still contain steelhead. So the issue was the standards for road building is that instead of coming to us and asking for funding to put in swells and have different kinds of drainage features, isn't that part and parcel of how you build roads in the first place?
Right, and so is the portion of the road you're talking about, is that on the Forest Service or is that a county portion?
It's on the Forest Service land.
It's on Forest Service? So yeah, we have certain standards and our standards are maybe a little bit different than county standards. But you said we asked for
No,
fund-
it came through Mo Gomez, who runs South Coast Habitat Restoration out of Carpinteria.
Uh-huh.
And Mo asked for a grant, and he was working, I think, with NIFWIF or some other
Okay.
organizations to improve drainage from that road to prevent sedimentation into steelhead streams.
And I'm sorry, can you go back to your original question about, so you're asking,
About your road standards, when you build roads, do you consider that as a matter of course? Do you build them so that you don't have these erosion and sediment?
oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay,
um,
but then
especially-
why do they come to
And
us?
well, and then also now, because, because steelhead is a threat. The roads will be designed to mitigate or to circumvent any adverse effects to steelhead. So yeah, I mean, we do consider all that. We just don't build a road and not consider the habitat for sensitive or endangered species.
And then
Especially something that's sensitive to steelhead.
somebody mentioned fire risk, and so do you have a pretty aggressive program for dealing with road verges, keeping vegetation low and road verges?
Yeah, I mean, we try to brush the roads as early as we can before the season starts to kind of mitigate any type of stuff. Am I answering your question correctly? You talk,
Right, no, do you mow or do you hand?
yeah, we mow, yeah, we take a flare mower out there and we mow and we come out there with chainsaw, have a crew out there, so it's a flare mower. Some people call it bush hogs, depending on where you're from, and we have our crews out there with chainsaws.
Right. Yeah, no, I bring it up because 95% of the fires in Southern California are started by people or their infrastructure, like electrical infrastructure. And they just did a study on Camino Cielo, the fire department here did, and about 70–80% of the fires were started from road verges.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here this evening. And I appreciate all of your efforts and information. But two things come to mind. It seems to me that we are woefully inadequate in terms of our resources to give this community what has been removed from them. And I know this is an ongoing struggle. So I'd like your thoughts about what we as a community can do to up the ante, so to speak, to get whatever resources are necessary to bring back to the community what belongs here. That's my first part of my question. Second part of my question is that this gentleman who does not have access to his own land, what in particular can we do for him now? I mean, I don't know. You haven't addressed exactly why he does not have access. And I don't think I've heard you say what and when we can do to get him access. So those are my two questions.
Well, the first one is that continued support from the community, like with the volunteer groups helping us get work done that we can't physically do ourselves as an agency, as a district. And then also being a proponent for the Santa Barbara Rangers District or the Los Padres National Forest as a whole by, spreading, we'll champion the work that we do, but we also need the community to champion it as well to support us to get the work that can't get done. So that's one way. As it relates to this gentleman, all I can do is talk with him directly, talk to my bosses, and see what we can do to try to get him back to his property. And I know it's probably been quite some time since he's been back there, but there's been a series, not to make excuses, but there's been a series of things that happened. There's been fires, there's been floods, there's been storms, and everything probably keeps pushing things back. And so what I can only do what I can only do within my span of control. And I'll start there and then try to move out to see where we can go from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for coming. I have kind of digesting this and to get things quickly. One of the main roads that, we're talking about that is passable is the road down to Pendola. That the Montecito Water District's been moving heavy equipment down to their lake there. That could be open today. You just open the gates. And as a commission, I think I speak for everybody here, we're opposed to management through closure. That these things were open, that road's been open for 100 years. And it's only recently that it's been closed. And you can't make a valid argument relative to toads and red-legged frogs. In '64, after the Coyote Fire, the Corps of Engineers bulldozed that river from Juncal all the way to Gibraltar, from bank to bank. They took all the vegetation out. They set up one silt dam down near where Blue Canyon comes in. Now, wherever there's water, there's red-legged frogs, and there's plenty of toads in that area, pretty good toad populations. Partially because there's not any invasive fish there, like there is in the middle San Ynez has a lot of invasive fish that eat the frogs, non-native fish. But there's thousands of miles of unimproved roads open to the public that are managed by the BLM, that are managed in other forest districts, the Inyo district, the Mono, the Inyo Mountains and the Mono County area, Inyo County. All those, they just leave the roads open so the public can use them. Put up a sign if you need to saying, this is a caution unmaintained road, high clearance suggested, use at your own risk, 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. You put a sign up and then let the public use their property. And the history is that it's open. And it's only recently that's been closed, and the excuses that come up are not really valid. And there was a caretaker at Pendola Station. You can probably get another one. The guy that was there is still in the backcountry, surprisingly enough. Anyway, it's really, there's been such a loss of corporate memory, to remember what the Corps of Engineers did, and now to be worried about a crossing at Juncal Junction, is going to disturb the riparian habitat. I mean, that's foolish when you look at what the past has been and what's there now after that disturbance. So, I wish that you guys would draw more on us as a commission for certain types of projects that are good for fish and wildlife, and we can come up with some money here. You can put in a grant proposal for something you want to do. Some of the bridges that were put in on Davy Brown to let the steelhead up, those kind of things, we can help fund that. So, we invite you, as a department to do that. As a question, is there a level of significant disturbance that gets underneath NEPA where you can, move a rock in a trail without having to do a NEPA assessment or a heritage assessment?
I mean, everything we do, we have to have some type of assessment. So that's what.
There's no level of
It's
disturbance.
the CE, the categorical exclusion. That's what we use instead of having to do, if it fits, but having to do a blown out environmental assessment.
And it's so low you can't touch the ground with a shovel without doing a NEPA assessment or environmental assessment.
We have to do it. We need to do environmental assessment.
Thresholds are that low.
Yeah, especially, and it's not just with the biological, we also have the cultural.
Yeah,
aspect.
I mentioned that, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't take up too much more of your time, but I think it's important to think about these things. Like the one fellow was talking about the ruts. When you have a road that's open and people are driving on it,
it tends to take out the ruts from the rains and the like.
Mhm.
And people get out of their car and they move a rock out of the road, or they'll fill in a small gully. And it, just like you do with there's a lot of volunteers for the trails. I think if you put an outreach out with the 4-wheel drive clubs and the hunting communities here in this part of the world, you could get volunteers that'll go down and fix the roads up a little bit as they're using them. And I really like to see, I mean, deer season opens August 16th. I really like to see you open the gate down to Pendola
Mhm.
and up to Big Caliente. A lot of people go off from Big Caliente. I mean, generally you have to get a half a mile. You know, unfortunately, they designated that as a recreation area where you can't hunt within a half mile of the river. But a lot of people can get there, and then they can get past the half mile stuff and up above towards Juncal, from the Juncal gate, they can go that direction and get outside of that half mile recreation area exclusion, which for that area really should be dropped, but that's another subject.
Is that an area that can the road he's referencing be opened?
And what road again you talk?
The road from the Romero Saddle down to Pendola Station, and then the part that goes up to Big Caliente Hot Springs, it's being used right now by at least down to Juncal Junction, and the other way is being used by the Montecito Water District and Southern California Edison, and you guys are driving on it. And people that go down there that know what a road looks like are telling me that road's pretty much fine. You know, it's passable. And it's like I'm saying, there's tons of unimproved roads in the forest management and.
Let's start with that road.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's
Okay.
address, can we address that particular road, please?
So when he's saying that the Forest Service, Montecito and SE, it's administratively open. So you want it open to the public.
Yeah, the way it's always been.
Right. And so, I would have to take a look at it and see what, I mean, I've been out there. I need to go back out there again and see what needs to be done. There's also mitigation for fire as well. We got to make sure the shoulders is brushed back far enough. We got to have enough area where people, if they go somewhere to park, they got to be able to turn around. So there's quite a few things that need to be addressed as it gets to get back to Pendola. Past Pendola, going up to the hot springs, road-wise, I think parking from a standpoint, some of that stuff is cultural as well. I think that road is closed from a cultural standpoint.
It wasn't,
It's a portion over there that the Santa Barbara, where the city has a portion of it as well, as you go past it. That little insert where the city has a portion of the land in holding.
yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I mean, it hasn't been closed for cultural reasons for, 100 years. I mean,
Well, if I'm misspeaking, and I might be thinking about another road that's out there, then I'll take the blame for that, for making a misspeak. But to address what you're talking about, I mean, I don't have a problem in discussing and looking at different avenues to get people back there.
All right, that's a small step that we might be able to take. And if you need volunteers, perhaps this community can get some volunteers. So this is a huge problem, but this is one step, one road that we might be able to look at and say, maybe that road could be opened. Maybe there's no reason to keep it closed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll address that with our road engineers and so forth.
yeah. On another note, the in-holding there on the Ogilvy Ranch, they used to have a nice passable road that went up Mono Creek. And they gave it up because of the riparian impact. And they got this other fire road, which is a mother, to get to their property. And I think legally, having an in-holding like that the Forest Service is legally responsible for keeping their access open. And, to cut them off their property for 2 years, especially after they voluntarily gave up their other road, for this one, seems unfair, to me anyway. But, again, comes from knowing what's been going on for all these years.
Right.
Okay, well, I really appreciate it. If there's any other questions?
Yeah, one other thing, Daryl. Of course, we are the Fish and Wildlife Commission, and so we really care about preserving and restoring fish and wildlife. And so in constructing these roads, you may have read Bill Goldfarb's book called Crossings, but it's a lot about the Forest Service, but it's a lot about all the wildlife killed on roads and so on. But there's a lot of things that could be done. For example, with all these Arizona crossings, you can build bridges. And I know what the answer is going to be, and I'll get there in a minute. The other thing is you could build culverts that actually accommodate a lot of passage under roads and so on, like they're doing at Gaviota. So my question is, can you integrate more of these wildlife-friendly and fish-friendly features into your road building, or is it just a matter of cost? That you just don't have the people and the money to integrate these?
Well, I believe one of the low water crossings down there, we was planning on putting the bridge in, and it was in the works when contracting, but with the change of administration, things have been put on hold right now. And so I won't say that was canceled, but it was put on hold as they do an assessment of all the spending and where they can find, funds that and so forth. I mean, so that's just, and things always happen in a change in the administration, regardless of what party it is. So it's just, we got a new administration and things have changed for right now. So we're in a hold. Same thing with the NEPA stuff that's happening. We're getting a new NEPA process, and so everything's kind of on hold.
Yeah,
until we
and
figure out.
thank you so much for showing up, because it's pretty brave of you to come and talk to a lot of people that are not real happy with the current situation.
Yeah, no, I understand it. I mean, I'm glad you guys didn't beat me up so much. And so I am a public servant, and I am here to gather your concerns and see what the best way we can do to address those. So.
20 years, we've just seen nothing but closure.
Uh-huh.
And it's been management through closures. And anytime the Forest Service is
Whoever's speaking, can they use the microphones because we cannot hear them on mic? Please.
They record this, so they require everybody to talk. Sorry about that.
Hi, I'm John Hotchkiss. I've lived in Santa Barbara County my whole life. For the last 20 years, we've seen nothing but road closures and trail closures. And the Forest Service always comes back with this grand old plan. We're going to extend this. We're going to modify this. We're going to do this. And then you say, well, geez, who's in charge of that project? Who's doing the surveys and stuff? Oh, we haven't gotten that far yet. And that's all we've seen is closures and explanations about how in the future something's going to happen. And we see very little action happening, especially at the North County up around Santa Maria.
Well, I mean, I understand, like I said, I understand your concern, and I kind of gave you my frame when I arrived at the Santa Barbara. And so it's not maybe running at 100%, but I mean, we are making some gains. Like I said, I got here FY22, assess, address, design, implement. And so we did that, and not making excuses, but we did have two major storms that came through and kind of set back something. And I hear what you're saying, and that's been the same discussion for the last 20 years. And so all I'm saying, we're working at it, and I'm doing the best I can with what I have.
Yeah, 'cause like we said, for 20 years, it's been storms, it's been fires, it's been everything, and a lot of excuses. And I hope you're doing a better job than the previous.
Well, I'm damn sure we'll try to.
Thank you, Daryl.
And then I did want to ask if someone's online wishes to speak on this item, please raise your hand.
Good deal. Yeah. So again, my name's Ben, and I guess I'm just a little bit confused. The Forest Service is holding the keys and is also holding up the show, or holding up the program. The Edison settlement funds from the Thomas Fire is significant. The interest alone from that settlement is significant enough to cover the costs of everything we've just been discussing, I would guesstimate. In addition to that, we have, thank you, Fish and Wildlife Commission. Thank you, Phil, for putting the word out to the Independent. So some of us could get the word about this and be here. Thank you all for your interest in this. So there's grant funding available on that end. There's volunteers available through SAGE, through LPFA, through numerous other crews. We're all rearing and ready to go. And I see that there's funding out there, and I'm not pointing any fingers. I trust that you see our concerns and you want to address them, and things don't happen overnight. But I guess I'm just a little confused as to what the holdup is, and particularly for a more pointed question, I think the public, with regard to our public lands and considering the disrepair out there to roads and trails, we do deserve some type of an accounting for that Edison settlement, especially if we keep hearing that, oh, lack of funding. It's, where is that money going, and how can we all work together to be part of the solution? Thank you.
Okay, thanks again. And please feel free to come to any more of our meetings that you feel like you'd like to, or whether, we may have more questions down the road. But, again, I think Pendola is something that can be done on the short term. So going on to the next item of business, modifications in the marine protected areas. Blake Herman has helped us, and some of the members here, we've put together a letter to go to the state commission, commenting on the different modifications, applications for modifications of petitions, they call them, put forward to the state commission. It's a very concise and well-written set of letters, or a big letter. And I would like, at this point, I'm assuming the commissioners had a chance to read it. I would like us to vote or have someone move to use this letter, put it on our stationery and send it to, sign it and send it to the State Fish and Wildlife Commission.
I move that the commission approves it and move it forward and submit it.
Okay,
Second? I second.
okay, any comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed unanimously,
Can I
yes.
get who moved and who seconded, please?
What?
Who moved and who seconded the motion?
Oh, who moved and who seconded? Okay.
I moved,
Thank
and it's Whitney, Teresa.
Whitney and Frank seconded it.
Thank you.
Okay, so, very nice. Thank you, Blake, for your help on this. Okay, so the minutes, approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Again, commissioners have had a chance to look at that. Are there any changes to the last minutes that anybody wants to make?
Like to move it.
Have at it.
I'll second it. This is Steve Adam.
Okay, Scott moved it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
This report. Normally there's a report from the chair, but I've done enough talking today.
I have one item
You have an item?
Yeah.
Where is it?
at the
Oh.
bottom of the agenda.
Speak to your item.
Okay. This is just an idea, and so I'm just throwing it out to the commission for discussion. But we've increasingly found that some of the projects we're supposed to consider for funding don't fit nicely into the enabling legislation, 13103. And so in those cases, we often refer to the Department of Fish and Wildlife to say, is this a legitimate use of these funds? In most cases, most of our funding is for education projects, for habitat restoration, and things like that. There's no problem, it just sails through. But in the case of the Sea Cave proposal, there was first one where the person for that proposal asked for a vote, and we voted for that vote. And then it turns out it turned into a bureaucratic morass. And so I worked a lot with David Villalobos to work this out, but essentially the problem was the Fish and Wildlife Commission says that the boat is owned by the county. And so now we're consulting with legal counsel, Hudson, to determine if the county wants the responsibility for a boat. So we don't know in any shape or form if that's going to be really approved. And then the second part is he submitted a proposal last time for continuing to expand the Sea Cave project, and it fell into several components. So he wanted to do some more scanning of the bottom so he could decide on the placement of the sea caves. And that fell after consultation with Fish and Wildlife under the auspices of research, which according to the statutes requires Fish and Wildlife approval. The second part was an education program where he takes kids and so on out to look at the sea caves, and that falls under teaching. And there was one in between, which I'm forgetting right now, but it turns out in every case, under the statute itself, it says explicitly we need to seek Fish and Wildlife approval. So I talked to David Villalobos because we'd like to clean this up. If we're going to recommend something, we don't want people go away with the expectation they're going to get funding, and then they find out later it's all messed up due to bureaucratic or legislative problems. So in talking with David, I thought one possible solution is to have the proposals come in 2 to 3 weeks before we have a next commission meeting, and then we have time to pass it by Fish and Wildlife. And this is only for those cases where there's a question. It's not for most of the cases where there's no question. And it was sort of a way to circumvent this problem and make sure that if we made a recommendation, we could hold to it. So it's just a suggestion. I'm just opening it up for discussion. But if we got the proposal early, if we got them a bit earlier, we could send them out to Fish and Wildlife to make sure everything's kosher.
Sounds like a good idea. I agree. I will approach that, but at least we can tell people when they put something in that if it falls in that gray area, that it's taken.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Well, I actually proposed, it's just one sentence added to our application form. It was supposed to be, let me see here.
What are we looking for? Phil, your microphone.
Yeah, I'm
will
looking
pop
for
up.
the wording change I proposed for the application. Well, it's up there. So it's under reports of committee members C, the deadline. It's actually that sentence, the deadline date for proposal requesting funds from the Fish and Wildlife Propagation Fund. I said 3 weeks before the next Fish and Wildlife Commission meeting. So that's the wording that would go into the application form.
I move we add that wording to the application form.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So next order of business is the financial status report. And I'll have copies of it. Encapsulate it a little bit.
Phil, may I ask you to turn your microphone on, please?
Sorry. Damn, I didn't know I turned it off.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So the next order of business, financial status, Fish and Wildlife Fund 0041. I'm encapsulated currently as of the end of June. The fund had $705,011 in it. As it goes through the different line items and the like on the paper that's in front of us. One of the things that has come up is that the budget set up every year of late has had a budget of $20,000 in it for us to distribute, and anything beyond that causes the planning and development in the county to go through a process to change that budget item to a higher amount. And I am going to talk to Andrew Rasura, David's boss, at sometime in the first week in August, so it fits into the new fiscal years and stuff, to change that budget line to 100,000. So we can go up to 100,000 before that we put them through the extra effort of having to do a budget revision. So, and it doesn't really affect anything except I think it'll make things go faster and a little easier on the county staff. So, anybody object to me going forward with that process?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Okay, so the last order of business is to pick the date for the next meeting. Usually it would be in November. I'm thinking maybe Thanksgiving's the 27th, so maybe the 20th of November. That works. Yeah, anybody have a problem with that? Any of the members?
I will be absent from that one.
Okay, how about the 13th?
Ditto. Could do the 6th,
Let's see.
but I'm one out. Everybody else can make it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. How about the 6th?
It doesn't work for me, but.
Okay, well,
One.
yeah, no, that one way, one the other. So let's do the 20th. That's closer to when we normally do them. Okay. So Teresa, we're picking November 20th, and yeah, suppose it'll be in Santa Maria.
Okay,
We'll move back and forth. And Dark of the Moon, what good that is. Okay, well, if not hearing any objections, I will adjourn the meeting. Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
thank you for all coming.
Thank you for all your attendance. Thank you for